Hello, welcome to the Pep Talks. This is our podcast where we talk about some of the many wonderful things happening in the Consolidated School District of New Britain. I'm Tony Gasper, I'm the Superintendent of Schools, and I'm here today with Dave Devost from Holmes School. Welcome.
Thank you.
So we're here to talk about a bunch of things today. You were nominated for one of my challenge coins, but why don't you just start by telling us about your work at Holmes School, please?
So I have been in the New Britain district for 23 years, and a majority of my time has been at Holmes School. I've taught third grade. Throughout my time in New Britain, I've worked on many committees, both within the school and outside, personnel committees, professional development committees, hiring committees, many aspects of union life for the teachers here. But my biggest role is that of a teacher, a classroom teacher here in New Britain.
Excellent, thanks. So you were nominated to receive one of the Superintendent Challenge coins for something you've been doing for quite a long time, for several years, and it's a really nice way to recognize the kids at Holmes. Why don't you tell us about that breakfast?
So we've been doing the breakfast, the recognition breakfast, for probably over 10 years. It started with under the direction of a former principal. We took a pause during COVID, obviously, and then after we started coming out of COVID, we decided to bring this tradition back to Holmes. And Mrs. Nickel, our principal, had the foresight to say, let's rebrand it. So it was formerly the Principal's Breakfast, and now it is the Recognition Breakfast. And to her credit, she recognized that it was the teachers at Holmes that facilitated that. The principal really had very little to do, except smile, take pictures, sign some certificates, which is appropriate as the leader of the school. But she recognized that it was really teacher-driven, and she gives us kudos to that each and every time that we assemble for the breakfast, and proudly says that. And I think it's a credit to us that we recognize our kids. That's important, that we have those celebrations.
And I've attended a couple. It's not a small event.
No, we usually have over 100 people in attendance. We recognize usually about 50 kids. They're allowed to bring their parents or grandparents and siblings, of course. We usually have a delicious hot breakfast, courtesy of Whitson's, who's been generous throughout the years. We put out tablecloths and we play music, and we'll have the chorus perform or background music, and it really is a lovely event, and it's special because it's periodic, and it's not everyone who can receive that. Right. We did expand it a bit too. Prior, it was just academics and effort, and we've included some an SEL aspect to it, to include kindness, being a role model, being a good citizen, which are all really important things in our world today.
Of course, yeah. And having attended myself, it's just wonderful to see how many parents attend and the smiles on everybody's faces. It's a great event. What was your motivation for wanting to really take a leadership role in the event?
I was just sort of tagged initially to do it. Obviously, the former principal saw that I had some skills, a skill set that was appropriate for it, and I've just continued to do that. And I'm fortunate that I have colleagues that are willing to help facilitate this. There's a lot to it. Ordering, making name tags, invitations, making sure we have people greeting and serving. And we think that's a little special touch. The students are greeted at the door when they come in.
I saw that when I visited a couple of times.
Even the guests get name tags, and so they think that's sort of ooh la la. I'd like to get a red carpet maybe at some point as the students enter. Would be a nice little touch. We'll see if it's in the budget maybe next year.
That would be cute. That would be cute. So shifting a little more generally, so what was your motivation to go into the field? What was your motivation to become an elementary teacher?
It's something that happened really in my senior year of college. I didn't sort of anticipate this or picture this in my life. In my senior year, to complete my thesis, I worked at a high school in Port Chester, New York, and worked with sort of youth that were sort of struggling, both academically, socially, mentally. And so I had sort of dabbled in that program and worked with some of those students, and it sort of sparked me. So then I returned home from New York and decided to pursue a degree in teaching, although definitely made a decision that it wasn't high school, was not my thing, and decided to pursue the elementary age. And it made sense to me, as I have always babysat, I've worked in camps through the summer, so it sort of made sense at that point that this was the field that I should be.
As a former high school teacher myself, I can understand. It really just has to be a fit for kind of who you are as a person. That's the unique thing I think about our profession is really does end up being an expression of who you are as a person, and you have to find the right fit for which classroom you're going to go into. Yeah. Great part of your story. Tell us about working here in New Britain and working at Holmes. What drives you? What's the best part? What comes to mind about when you go to work each day at Holmes and here in New Britain?
Well, New Britain's always held a special sort of place in my heart. I was born here in New Britain. My parents initially made their home when I was young. We did move away, but I always had relations here in Southington. I mean, when we moved to Southington, and I've maintained relationships here with family. I bought my first home here in New Britain, and so New Britain's always sort of held a special place. And I just sort of came upon a job here in New Britain. I was working in another district, came back to New Britain, and I always felt that there is a reason you are where you are supposed to be, that someone needs your help. And the district I left, those students didn't need my help anymore. And coming to New Britain and getting hired here was my signal to say, I can make a difference here. I can help students here. Someone here needs my help.
Really interesting. Very, very interesting. Thanks. Who's a big influence, or who has been a big influence on you professionally?
I'd have to probably say my husband is probably my biggest influence. He is a teacher as well. And he was teaching before I began teaching. And he's actually a music teacher, and he just puts me in awe with what he's able to do. He can be waving his arms in front of 100 students, and he has full command of them, and he makes them sound like birds. It's amazing. But I also see the relationships that he builds with his students. I've seen it year after year, the letters, the comments, the conversations. We've had them to our home for parties and cookouts that he does for his select groups, and they're always so kind. They were even at our wedding when we got married. So he just builds those relationships, and we all know that that's an important part of being a teacher.
We talk a lot about what we can offer to the kids, but what's something that you've learned from the kids? What's a lesson that students have taught you?
Well, I did think about this. Luckily, I was prepared for this. Recently, I sort of reconnected with a former student. When I taught 6th grade in a former district, I met a boy at the time, didn't ever anticipate that I would ever reconnect with him. And it was a situation where they were moving on to middle school. And so we have a ceremony, a stepping up ceremony, if you will. And the students, of course, were emotional and in tears. And I said to him and to a group of students, you all can do this. You can do this. And he remembered that. And so it made me think about the weight of what we say. What we say has weight. And it really was a sort of a little thing. It wasn't a heavy, deep, and real conversation that I had. It was just sort of a side, like, you all can do this. And he told me years later that he remembered that through his life. He had struggles and relationships and personal struggles. And he remembered me saying, you can do this.
That's wonderful.
And he through Facebook, reconnected, and he told me that in person, which I really loved.
Amazing.
So we still connect to this
rare for us in this profession, but amazing when it happens.
Rare for elementary.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, very good point.
High school will usually maintain some relationships with select students. Elementary students, we seldom get to see
that's a great point.
Our product, so to speak, at the finish line.
Sure.
And once in a while we have that privilege. We get that great gift of doing that. So.
Great point. Great way to end. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching.